And you're welcome actually to the Voters Diary. Thank you so much for joining us for another week for the Voters Diary. Remember, this is the Election Bureau. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. When we return, I'll give you an idea of what we'll be discussing today. Don't go away. And you're welcome back to the Voters Diary. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. And so we all know that the two major political parties have certain regions they've got a grip on. Those regions usually vote for them whatever happens. On today's edition of the Voters Diary, we'll be looking at such strongholds of the major political parties. We'll start today with the Ashanti region, which goes towards the NPP on any given election. We'll be looking at how that started, the dynamics around that, and what it will look like in the 2020 elections. Now, to do that, I have two gentlemen. Kojo Akoto-Boateng heads our new media team here at City FM and City TV. Kojo will be helping us with that analysis. Kojo, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
And then I also have Selom Adonu. He's the head of features and articles here at City FM and City TV. He'll also be giving us some perspective around the Ashanti region and why they usually towards the NPP. So let me start with Kojo. He has been monitoring this region for a while. Actually, in the 2016 elections, he was one of the reporters that covered that region. Kojo, let's understand this region in terms of, do you have your map? You don't have your map, but you have been following this region.
Today is data heavy and stories heavy and phone calls, so
you don't want to bag us with that.
Basically, the Ashanti region, when you look at landmass, is one of the biggest, right? Before we broke down the northern region into Savannah, Northeast, and Northern. The northern region was the biggest landmass, then BA, Western, and Co would come, right? But now if you look at it very well, the Ashanti region is the most populous region when it comes to population of people. Landmass is one of the biggest in the countries. In fact, if you have been to Israel before, right?
Yeah.
The Ashanti region as a region is bigger than the nation of Israel when it comes to land size. Yes, slightly bigger than the nation of Israel.
Okay.
And the population in the Ashanti region, if you put everything together, is the region with the largest population. So it's quite a very important region. Kumasi is the capital. Kumasi is known as a hub for business. It's also a traditional place because the Asante Kingdom has its home in Kumasi. And Kumasi basically is the home of the Asante. So all the Asante clans, that's their capital. So if you look at Kumasi, even though it's a cosmopolitan city, the larger population of the people there are the Asante, who usually will lean towards the NPP. If you look at the region in its totality, even though there are other people from other regions who have settled in the region and are doing business, the region still has a larger population being the Asante or the Akan group of people. So you get the Asante, you get some Fante there, you get Bono there, but strategically, almost every other group in this country have a base in Kumasi or the Asante region. And there are chiefs for all these people. So if you go to Moshizongo, you'll get a Fafra chief, you'll get a Dagomba chief, you'll get almost every big traditional institution in this particular country has a base with its recognized traditional leadership. Why? Because Asante was a big kingdom and every other state back then, before Ghana was founded, every other traditional state needed to have some form of diplomatic mission within Asante, right? And so when you go, you'll be settled and given land, like we've given the British land to have their diplomatic mission, the Americans. So it's a similar thing that happens within the Ashanti region. So it's purely an Asante or Akan populated place, but there are reps of almost every other type of group in Ghana, also within the city.
So a very key region, not just for politics, but commerce and, you know, a mixture of...
Industry, agric. At a point, Ashanti region led cocoa production in the country until the Western region took over.
Okay.
At a point, gold production, right, within the country, Ashanti region was the leader, because the biggest mine that we have in the country as of then when it comes to production was the Obuasi gold mines. It's been in operation for over 100 years. So it's about one of the biggest in Africa and one of the oldest in Africa. And if you look at Ashanti culture, for instance, you see a lot of gold ornaments in the palaces and all that. It gives you a sense that mining didn't start yesterday within the area. They've known gold, they've known sikakoko, which they used to mine in as artisans. And so it's basically a region which captures a little bit of everything when it comes to Ghana. I'll
come back to you on the numbers over the period, what we've seen in terms of the numbers, you know, voting pattern as compared to the NDC and all that. But let me rope in Selom Adonu. Selom, welcome.
Thank you.
So we've known that the region usually toes towards the NPP and all that. But can you run us through when this started and when it became an entrenched, you know, fact that usually you see them go towards that line?
Well, historically, it dates back to the National Liberation Movement days. Of course, NDC and NPP were not there at the time. The NLM elements were people who were disgruntled CPP members at some point, and so they found a base in Ashanti, and indeed, so they began to agitate, they began to oppose a lot of the things Nkrumah was doing, and that made them not so cool or good with Nkrumah. So indeed, a lot of the victims of the PDA, the Preventive Detention Act, which Nkrumah's parliament promulgated, jailed a lot of them, for the want of a better word, jailed a lot of them. So they were very opposed to the Nkrumah regime. So if you realize, there were people like Bafo or Seyakoto who were arrested together with some other people in the Ashanti region, and that formed the seminal case called the Ri Akoto, and 7 or 8 others, which was an important case, but was ruled that indeed the PDA was a properly passed law, and so that was positive law. You know, people think that Ghana missed the chance to do what we call judicial review of the law when the Chief Justice, or the court led by Chief Justice Akukosa, ruled in favor of the government, Attorney General Bling at the time. So you know, it's been there. And so now Nkrumah is left the scene, and a lot of the people who loved Nkrumah were still in the CPP. CPP at some point got disbanded, and so a lot of those people found themselves into the NDC. But the Busia Dankwa tradition, you know, which this element also found themselves into, it remains so since. And coupled with, so NDC now, Rawlings came, PNDC now forming NDC, now into the democratic era. The Dankwa Busia tradition also having descendants in the presence of Edu Boahen, Kufuor, etc. in today's MPP. In fact, before that we had Victor Usu and a few other people, Busia, Victor Usu, Edu Boahen, and a whole lot of people now forming the MPP. So now at some point, people have said that because of the influence of Rawlings and the bigness of the Rawlings factor in the NDC, and how, you know, historically Ashantis and Ewes have been, that deepened that support base. So this to the NDC and that to the MPP. Of course, there's a lot of literature on that we can review. But the love of the Ashanti region for the MPP did not start today. So it started a long time ago, and we are still seeing signs of that today. And that, I'm sure we'll discuss Volta region in the coming days. So Volta region also has its own like that towards the NDC, mainly because Rawlings, who was a key person, was Ewe, and so people will associate it with theirs. So that is basically how the Ashanti region has come to love the MPP, and indeed they've stuck with the party, and they've supported the party throughout all the elections. And indeed, if the MPP has no region at all, they know that for sure the Ashanti region will not desert them. And a number of people have made the party in the region popular in contemporary times. So you have people like the late Apia Minka, J.A. Kufuor, Osei Akoto, and all those people. And then in recent times, Wontumi. These are names that when you mention in the region, I mean, they have a certain following, and once they move, they move a lot of the crowd with them. And these are the people who, those of them who are alive, you know, constitute the power centers of the party in that area. The Ashanti Hene, or the stool in Menchia, also plays such a critical role. When you look at other regions, I mean, a lot of the other regions lack the homogeneity that Ashanti region has. They have a single authority. So when the Ashanti Hene speaks, a whole lot of them move towards that. Indeed, when the NLM was trying to persuade the colonial masters, you know, about what Nkrumah was doing, that they were not in support of it, etc., one of the things they didn't want, was the unitary government. So indeed, they wrote to the colonial masters, persuading them to have a federal system in Ghana, so that they can maintain the chieftaincy institution in the region, and they, to some extent, said that they do not want elected youngsters to be in charge of everything. It was important to have people who understood tradition, and people who were of age and had wisdom to administer affairs. And so they wanted, you know, a hybrid of a kind, which was synonymous with what people in South Africa at the time during the apartheid era wanted. So, you know, they've loved their chieftaincy institution, and so that homogeneity helps to administer the place, and it helps also to carry information across. I'm not by this saying that the stool has supported one party or the other, but it's easy to transmit information across the board once the person in the seat, you know, has a certain inclination, and it's easy to get things done. The Ashanti region also is powerful for a number of reasons. They are economically a stronghold. They are strong, like Kojo rightly said. Cocoa production, that brings a lot of money. Gold is their timber. They have a rich culture. They are bold, and they are courageous. They don't care about what others think. Once they feel it's right, they go ahead and trumpet it. And all those things, you know, result in what people have called the Ashanti hegemony, or the Akan hegemony. And it's a way, it's their way of life. You can't fault them for it. It's their way of life, and they are very proud of it. They are very proud of their culture, very proud of everything they do. So that, you know, finds its way in the kinds of things they support. So like the MPP, for example, has a huge element of the Ashanti region in and a whole lot of things. So Ashanti region is quite, should I say, a complicated region. But what is absolute about them is that they have so much love for the MPP, and they will go a long way to ensure that they support the party. I'm sure with time we'll go
to the figures and all that. But I want us to go to the Ashanti region now and speak to one of our correspondents there, Hafiz Tijani, to give us a practical sense or a situational report of the strength of the MPP in that region and what that means for the other big party, which is the NDC. So Hafiz Tijani is our correspondent in the Ashanti region. Hafiz, if you can hear me, welcome to the Voters Diary.
Thank you very much, Vivian.
Okay, so Hafiz, you've been living in the Ashanti region, born and bred there, monitored both parties in the region. But to start with, give us a sense of the hold of the MPP in that region.
Well, for the MPP, if you ask them, they will tell you they don't have much problem in the Ashanti region, but there needs to be a lot of hard work. Remember recently when they declared the region as the 47 seat agenda, or when they declared that agenda, and then they inaugurated their campaign team for both the region and the constituencies and the branch level, the national chairman of the party, Freddie Blay, urged them not to be complacent. They know the Ashanti region, they can always win the region, but they do not have to be complacent. So for the Ashanti region, the MPP is still hoping to make more gains, more than even the previous elections. So for constituencies, they have given themselves some targets. You talk of the members of parliament in these areas. They know that their seats are safe. You talk of areas like Bantama, you talk of areas like Menchia South, Menchia North, Menchia East, Subin. They know they are going to win the parliamentary seats. But their focus more is on the presidential vote so that they can up the voter margin for the president in this election. So they want to ensure that the previous election, the performance of the MPP outweighs the performance this year outweighs the performance in the previous election. So that is the sense you get when you speak to the regional executives, the party supporters, as well as the campaign team members of the MPP.
Okay. Have they given themselves a target for this year in terms of figures? We know 4 years ago they gave themselves a target. This year, are we seeing anything similar? Hello, Hafiz, can you hear me? Okay, we lost Hafiz there. We'll raise him back on the lines and then we'll continue the conversations with that. But if we can start looking at the figures, I believe we can start from 1996 and then look at what we've seen over the period. Okay, so
let's give you the general picture of the population so that when we start mentioning the numbers, people will know what we are dealing with. If you look at the Ashanti region's population compared to the general national population. For example, Greater Accra is next when it comes to population numbers is 5.05 million people, right? Now, the Ashanti region population is 5.92. This is the projected population for 2020. 5.92 million people, almost 6 million people. Okay. So Ashanti region is about 900,000 more people, has 900,000 more people than Greater Accra. Okay. But then when it comes to the elections, the Greater Accra region has more registered voters than the Ashanti region.
Okay, could you hold on with your thoughts there? Let's go back to the region. Hafiz is back on the line. Hafiz, can you hear me now? Hello, Hafiz.
Yes, Vivian, I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So I was asking whether they have a projected figure in terms of what they're adding on for this year's elections as compared to what they did in the 2016 elections.
So for the presidential, they have not come out with any projections or any exact figure. Okay. But for the parliamentary, they are bent on winning all the 47 seats. You know, the MPP currently holds the 43 seats out of the 47. The NDC also has the 3 other constituencies, specifically Ashanti constituency, the Idra Settlement constituency, and the Teche Assam Plains constituency. For the presidential side, the MPP has not come out officially to mention that. But when you go to the various constituencies, which I mentioned, that those constituencies are safe for the parliamentary candidates representing the party, they think they are going to win the parliamentary seats. But for the presidential, they want to ensure that the voter percentage that the party received in terms of the presidential votes increase, and they will perform well for the president, because they think that if the vote is up, it will impact on the winning of the president or the victory of the president or their presidential candidate. So when you go to constituencies like Bantama, recently they also mentioned that they want to win 95% of the votes for the president. And you go to Sweden, they are also talking about 80%. You go to Menchia South, they are also talking about winning 90% of the votes for their presidential candidate. So the party itself has not come out to say that this is a figure we are putting up. But you look at the parliamentary, they think that some of the seats are safe for them, but the focus right now is on winning all the 47 seats for the parliamentary in the Ashanti region. Okay,
so let's look at the 3 constituencies that currently the NDC holds, Asawase and the other 2. How easy will that tax be for them in wrestling back those seats?
Okay, so that has been one thing the NDC is also giving up. The NDC says they have heard what the MPP has said, and they are not also giving up in these constituencies. You know, until recently, the new DRC seat was also held by the NDC, and the MPP has taken away that seat from them, so they are left with 3 seats. And with the declaration by the MPP of winning all the 47 seats, the NDC is also tightening its belt to ensure that they don't lose out in terms of the parliamentary seats or the constituencies they are holding. So when you come to a constituency like Aswase, the MPP has intensified its campaign there. The NDC as well has also intensified its campaign there. It doesn't want to give up for the MPP to snatch the seat. You go to a place like the Ejira-Sefidomasi constituency, the same thing is happening. And you get some of these parties or executives and the campaign team members going day and night trying to campaign to ensure that they either retain the seats, that is for the side of the NDC, and the MPP are also trying to snatch the seats from them. So the regional executives, the constituency executives, even constituency executives who are not from these constituencies, they go there to campaign for the MPP to be able to achieve this agenda 47-47.
Now we know they've had challenges in certain constituencies from the primaries, and then the candidates they are fielding for parliamentary. So in Formina there are issues there. The candidates, the former MP now going as an independent candidate. Asokwa, Bekwa and the likes also challenges over there. How do you think these developments will have an impact on their numbers in those constituencies and then the general figure for the MPP in the region?
So it's a double effort for the MPP in the region. While concentrating on winning these 3 seats that have been held currently by the NDC, they are also focusing on the constituencies that they see the independent parliamentary candidates who were with them and they have decided to go independent. They see them as a threat, so they are focusing on those constituencies. So let's talk of Formina. Formina, the vice president recently was there. After the vice president visited that constituency, and then he made some of the remarks appealing to the traditional leaders to intervene to ensure the incumbent member of parliament who has decided to go as an independent candidate steps down. A team of MPP constituency regional executives, as well as some members of parliament from even outside the Ashanti region, also went there to hold some rallies, trying to get a lot of people not listening to these independent candidates. So the president recently was also there. He touched on some of these issues. So it's a double agony for the MPP in trying to achieve their 47-47 agenda they've declared, and trying to also ensure that they don't lose the seats to these independent candidates who have declared their intentions at these constituencies, especially Bekwai and Formina, where they see that these are the party members who have taken this decision. These are people who are threats or who are a threat to the parliamentary candidates representing the MPP in those constituencies. So the MPP is making a double effort. They are doubling up their efforts, trying to achieve the 47-47 agenda in one breath, and in the other breath trying to ensure that they protect the seats where the independent candidates have come up.
Okay, I have to let you go, but before I do that, speaking to them, the people in the region, what reasons do they give for their love for the MPP?
So it's been a kind of divided. You speak to some people, they will tell you that the MPP has done a lot in terms of intervention, the policies they brought, and one key policy you hear people mention is the free senior high school policy. They say it has benefited not only people in the Ashanti region, but also a lot of people across the country. So they think that the MPP should be retained, even if the MPP has not done anything for the Ashanti region. And the concern for inhabitants of the Ashanti region was the roads, major concern. So until recently, there's been some upgrade of the roads, especially the inner roads. You talk about areas like Amekom, talk about the Subin areas. These are internal roads that were in a very bad state. So it was a concern for even the traditional leaders, the Kumasi Traditional Council, the Asanteman Council, that the MPP touts the Ashanti region as its World Bank, its stronghold, but it is lagging in terms of infrastructure development and roads. And the NDC have been capitalizing on this on a number of events. They will outline what the former president, John Dramani Mahama, has done for the people of the region. One key project they mentioned is the KGTF market. And the MPP as a party that touts the Ashanti region to the East World Bank, not doing anything for the people in the Ashanti region. So it's been a kind of mixed reaction when you speak to people, whether or not the MPP has really helped and why they are going to still vote for the MPP.
Okay. Hafiz Tijani, thank you so much for your time. Hafiz Tijani, he's one of our correspondents in the Ashanti region. When we come back, we'll look at the figures, the numbers, and that development and the trend in the Ashanti region with regards to the MPP having it as a stronghold. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And it's still the Election Bureau. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. This is the Voters Diary. Thank you for joining us and staying with us. We want you to be part of the conversation. Do you live in the Ashanti region? Do you vote for the MPP? Why have you been doing that over the years? Let us know why. Or you can send us a message via Facebook or Twitter. Just add Voters Diary hashtag so that we can see your message and read them. Or alternatively, you can send us via the number currently on your TV screen. So guys, Afi's given us an interesting, idea of what's happening on the ground and why people usually will toll towards the MPP and the NDC. But you started giving us some figures with the population and then...
So when it comes to absolute population numbers, Ashanti region is number one. With the highest, the second region is Greater Accra. If you look at the projected population, Ashanti region has about 900,000 more people than Greater Accra. Okay. It's expected that when we do the 2021 census, maybe things will change a bit, but these are projections from the 2010 census. Now, when it comes to voter numbers, Ashanti region in the year 2000 was number one. They had the most voters, registered voters, but from 2004 onwards, Greater Accra has taken over and has been leading. And so at the moment, Greater Accra has in excess of 3 million, 3.2, 3.3. Ashanti region is around 3 million, if we round it off. So that gives you a sense of the numbers when it comes to the Ashanti region. Now, if you look at the MPP's performance, because it's their home constituency, or their home region, if you look at their performance since this new constitution came into being, Ashanti region in 1992 voted for NPP. It was the only region that voted NPP. And it stayed same since 1992.
I think it's changed.
It's not changed. The NPP always wins the Ashanti region. Now, if you come to modern day numbers, in the year 2008, the average percentage that the NPP got, if you are just doing MPP and NDC numbers at the various constituencies, was 73.35.
73.35%.
That was the average percentage of the NPP's total votes as a fraction of MPP NDC votes, 73.35. In 2012, it dropped to 70.00. And in 2016, 74.65. So if you look at these three, we are looking at an average of 72 point something, 2008, 2012, 2016. So Ashanti region really gives the NPP the numbers. Now, if you look at constituencies, presidential, that the NDC wins. In 2008, the NDC won 3 constituencies, right? In 2012, it was about 4 constituencies. In 2016, 3 constituencies. So out of the 47 in 2012, 2016, the NDC managed to get only 3 of them. And if you look at those constituencies and the fraction of the votes, for example, New Edubiase, 2008, NPP got 42% of the vote count. If you are comparing just NPP and NDC figures and striking a total. In Asawase, NPP got 42%. In Edrase Chedumase, NPP got 46%. So these are the constituencies that the NDC won in 2008. If you compare to, so these are NDC's highest constituencies in the region. If you compare that with the NPP's constituencies that they won, they were winning 88%, 87%. In fact, from Odotobri all the way to Ahafo North, the constituencies that the NPP won, the lowest was 54%. That's Ahafo North. All the others, 63, 75, 78, 88. So when the NPP wins their constituencies in the Ashanti region, they win big.
They win big. And
looking at the numbers, they bring in huge numbers. For example, let me give you the absolute numbers. In 2008, Ashanti, New Edubiase, NPP got 11,000, NDC got 15,000, right? NDC won that. Asawase, NPP got 27,000, NDC got 36,000. Edrase Chedumase, NPP got 17,000, NDC got 20,000. But let's look at the constituencies that the NPP wins and look at how much the NDC gets. Odotobri, NDC got 23,000. Guess how much the NDC got? 3,000.
23,000 and 3,000.
So it's like a 20,000 difference. Bekwai, NDC got 5,000, NPP got 38,000. The difference is about 32,000. Right? Manson Kwanta, NPP got 40,000, NDC got 6,000. So the differences when it comes to the NDC constituencies are always big. Now, there's a constituency that a lot of people follow and they talk about a lot, which is the Bantama constituency. Every time during the election, Bantama, Florida. And Bantama is also a key constituency and a lot of things happen there. So, for example, Bantama in 2008, NPP got 40,000, NDC got 7,600.
40 and 7,000.
Yes. In 2012, NPP got 49,000, NDC got 9,000. In 2016, NPP got 51,000, NDC got 6,000. Now, when Inshayeso and all those other constituencies were part of Bantama, when the figures dropped, you would hear 100,000, 80,000, and you hear 2,000. So the differences when it comes to the NPP strongholds, like the constituencies that the NPP wins, they win by the numbers, like it's mentioned in the Bible. You know the story of Saul and David, right? When David goes out to war and wins a victory, the woman will sing, Saul kum napim, and David kum nampimdu. So Saul kills 1,000 enemies, David kills 10,000 enemies. That is another 0, right?
On religious side,
No, so
yeah, you are scary fellow. You didn't know this side of you.
No,
he stopped there like,
so NDC will win the constituencies they've won, but you always see that the margin is very small. NPP wins their constituencies and the margin is huge, gargantuan. So that has been the trend. And I was looking at the 10 constituencies which would always give the NDC, the NPP, something above 80%. You look at Ejoso will give NPP 80%, Swami 80%, Kumewu, Efuja Kwabre, Bantama, Kwadaso, Achima Kwaoma, Manson Kwanta, Bekwai, Odotobri. They'll always call their 80%, at least if you look at the trends that we've seen.
So of these 80%, I see Bekwai and Swami.
Yes.
Does that say something about the protection of persons there, knowing that they rake in a lot for the party?
Not quite. Not quite, because Bekwai, prior to 2008, the gentleman there wasn't really protected. It was, Jose Owusu was peeved because he felt the primaries, the primary held in that constituency wasn't free and fair, or wasn't fair to him. You know, so he went unopposed. Before that election in 2004, it was contested, etc. So I think it is just maybe coincidental. Swami, it has to do with the personality of the person there. Osechi Mensah Bonsu is such a huge figure in parliament, and so indeed he started propounding this thing about protecting candidates, which I'm very much opposed to. I mean, so I don't think it has so much to do with the votes coming from there, but the personalities involved. And indeed, that has always been the discussion. And indeed, before 2004, Bantama used to be a huge one, 100,000, or in '96 was 80,000. 2004, so 2000 was 100,000. But the candidates there, or the MPs there, were not protected.
Well, not really.
So yeah, I think it's a recent phenomenon which we really need to kick against in order to entrench democracy.
Okay, could you go ahead with
yes? That? So that is the thing about Kumasi. Now, let's talk about Asawase, because it's a constituency of interest for a lot of people. Why is Asawase interesting? Asawase is the constituency which sits in the middle of super strongholds of the MPP in the Kumasi Metropolis and the Ashanti region, which is going to the NDC. And so the NPP feels that, look, this constituency, it has Ofori Krom, it has Menchia South, Menchia North, all these other are strongholds, and it's attached to us. Why can't we win this constituency? So it's a constituency that they are looking at taking away from the NDC. So it's going to be heavily contested. We've seen historical happenings in Asawase. We've seen the ballot boxes issue. We've seen slaps. We've seen thugs doing their thing in Asawase. It's one of the hot spots. And so going into 2020, we should look out for whatever happens in Asawase. If the NDC says they are retaining the Asawase, and the MPP too says that they are taking all 47 constituencies, it's one to watch. There's also Offenso North, where in 2008, the NPP won. The vote difference was 3,570, and their marginal difference, marginal percentage was 14.21. Now, in 2012, NDC won it with just 51 votes. Okay. Right? And then in 2016, NPP took it back with 8.66 marginal percentage. So the difference was 2,896. NPP wants to make this a strong constituency. They don't want to make it a weak constituency, because it was almost strong and it flipped. And now they are looking at making it a strong constituency. Now, if they're able to push that Offenso agenda, then it means that their Agenda 47 will be gathering some steam. Now, there is New Edubiase, and then, so we've mentioned Asawase, we've mentioned Offenso North. There is New Edubiase and Idra Seche Dumase. Those two constituencies have also, for Seche Dumase, for instance, in 2012 presidential, they voted for NPP. But 2008 was an NDC constituency. 2016, NDC took it back. Now, the margins are really low. The vote differences are really low. 2008 was 2,800 votes. 2012, NPP won it with 6,000 vote difference. And then 2016, NDC won with 3,000 vote difference. Now, you put the vote differences of 2008 and 2016 for the NDC together, it's just about the same amount of votes that the NPP used to win it in 2012, right? Okay. So the NPP thinks that, and with the issues that they've had with, what's his name, the MP, and the various issues they've had in the area, and with Planting for Food and Jobs, the NPP feels we can push these things, we've done these things, so we can push to get it. So 47 constituencies, 3 are not for the NPP, and out of the 3, 1 is very strongly NDC, which is Sechafram Plains. Can the NPP overturn the NDC's gains in Sechafram Plains from a strong constituency in the Ashanti region to an NPP constituency? That's a big question. Now, there's also the Asawase issue. The difference is not really that big. 2016, I was there. I was sitting between is it Alhaji Sule and Muntaka, right?
Okay. I want you to hold on to your thoughts. I'll go to the phone lines quickly and speak to the NDC's Ashanti Regional Secretary, Kwame Zu, to pick his thoughts. I mean, everybody knows in that region, I mean, the MPP has it, but what plans do they have this time around to perhaps change the narrative a bit? Mr. Zu, welcome to the Voters Diary. Hello, Kwame, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello, I can hear.
Okay, welcome to the Voters Diary. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so your party over the years has not been able to, gain a hold of this party, this region. What are you doing this time around differently to make a bit of some, waves into this region?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. The reality is that no two elections are the same.
Okay. 2016
elections is quite different from the impending 2020 elections. We recognize that in 2016 we lost the Tepa and Nyodi seats to our opponents and graciously added the Ejura seat to the number of seats we had, making it 3 seats in the Ashanti region. Again, in 2016, we had, 1 million votes, and subsequently was revised to 1.5 million. We ended up doing about 500,000, which is quite a shortfall of 1 million votes. The good news is that after every election, you review the election is established where you have erred and where you have not gotten it right, and possibly remedy same moving forward. As a political party, we are working. Every constituency matters. We have 10,000 plus votes in Mampong constituency that has traditionally been a seat for the MPP, and had about 7,000 votes in the Sechafram Plains constituency that traditionally has been our seat. Similarly, we had about 23,000 votes in the Ejura Sechedumasi constituency that is now our seat, and had about 23,000 votes in Ofurikom that has traditionally been an MPP seat. So obviously, every seat matters. Every constituency matters.
Okay.
So as a political party, we are not now too interested in whether the votes are higher or the seat is ours. What matters to us as a political party is that at the end of the day, John Dramani Mahama is declared victorious.
Okay.
Regardless of what every constituency is bringing on board. So we are treating all 47 constituencies as equally important.
Okay, well, we'll look at those constituencies one by one, but generally, why do you think the region on a typical election period towards the MPP? Why do they shy away from your party? What have you found from the reviews you've done over the years?
I think our country has its own history, and I'm not too sure I have the competence to delve into those. The politics and the geography and many other factors play as to why a certain particular constituency may or could vote the way they feel. Being that it may, we have a simple obligation. That responsibility is to do our best and to garner as many popular votes as we can garner and as many seats as we can garner. Whichever way it is, that will be done, and it will be done fearlessly. But as to the specific issues as to why somebody has chosen not to vote for the NDC, why somebody has chosen to vote for the NPP and those dynamics, I think they are way above my analysis. I'll leave that one to the pundits who will delve into electoral matters of this nature. But my position as a regional secretary, which is fairly a representation of our party, is that we are going into an election. Ghana is one constituency when it comes to presidential elections. Every vote, regardless of where it is coming from, matters to us. And our efforts, and all our prayers that we can be able to annex as many seats as possible and retain all our seats in the Ashanti region, and that will pursue aggressively.
Let's start with Asawase constituency, where your opponent has been saying that they will take that seat away from you. What are your chances with that seat in particular?
Asawase is a very interesting constituency when you follow the history. It is interesting because everybody who lives within Asawase constituency knows it is literally impracticable for the MPP to annex that seat. But when you stay outside the constituency, particularly outside Ashanti region, an impression is often created, particularly when the NPP is in government, as though that seat is in contest.
The other two constituencies?
That seat is being contested, but that is not a seat anybody is contesting. It is not a contest. It is a conclusive matter. However, for some very interesting reasons, our colleagues deliberately try to create an air of confusion around the seat, an air of confusion around the seat in the hope that that would inure to their benefit. But Asawase seat is not a seat we are contesting with anybody.
Okay. What about issues of violence and all that we've seen over the period during election days in that constituency? This time around, how are you dealing with such issues?
I am struggling to hear you. The line is extremely...
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Hello, Kwame, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's a bit better, yes.
Okay, I was saying that, Asawase, over the period, we've had reports of violence. Indeed, a few weeks ago, there were people that were arrested in the constituency. The MP himself intervened and all that. But this time around, with regards to elections, what are you doing to ensure that the violence we see over the years, from your side, we don't see them on election day?
We are a political party in opposition. The state security architecture is being manned by the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, the President of the Republic of Ghana. He has a singular responsibility to maintain law and order. It is hard to recount. I remember during the registration exercise, in the full glare of the public, the gentleman who purported to be a member of the National Security Council pulled the gun, he brandished ammunition in the full glare of the public. While a police officer who was detailed to work was being harassed by a civilian who purports to be working with the National Security Council. Surprisingly, as of today, we are yet to see an apprehension of that man. We are yet to see a prosecution of that matter. It becomes very difficult to talk about peace when people who are mandated by law to maintain law and order and to pretend over a nation that is peaceful for all these years and decades are moving around misbehaving and misconducting themselves and walking around with impunity. I think that is where the focus should be largely. As a political party, we have always adhered to the principles and tenets of democracy. We have always conducted ourselves in a manner that is in line with the constitution of this country, and our dedication to peace has always been unconditional. But let those who have the mandate, let those who have the responsibility act in a manner that can guarantee absolute peace and security.
Have you had discussions with the security agencies and the other political party, that's the MPP, over issues of security? We've seen in certain constituencies where there are issues of violence or hotspots, efforts being made by all to ensure that things are different this time around. Has anything of that nature happened in your constituency?
Yes, there has been engagement, even at the constituency level. I'm aware that the police have engaged the major political parties and all other relevant stakeholders with a view to guarantee some level of stability and peace before, during, and after the election. But our position is simple. That in spite of these efforts, if the police that are expected to be neutral arbiters are not acting in good faith, are not in action where they should be in action, then it leaves much to be desired. I give you a critical example where somebody brandished a gun in the full glare of the public. They are yet to apprehend the gentleman in question, much less prosecute him. So if you conduct or misconduct yourself in this manner, perhaps you are expected to be a neutral arbiter to maintain law and order. Then on the other hand, you are inviting political actors.
So you don't trust the security services to... to give you...
It becomes difficult, but that notwithstanding, we are law-abiding citizens.
Okay.
We'll do everything within our ambit to ensure there is peace, there is tranquility, there is orderliness. But like I keep indicating, others have bigger responsibilities. Let them adhere to the tenets of our democracy and preserve the institutions they have been called to work for.
Okay, Mr. Kwame, we have to leave it here. Mr. Kwame, thank you very much for your time. It's the NDC Ashanti Regional Secretary speaking to us over there. Let me pick a few messages from you, and then we'll wrap up here from the studio. This one says, the MPP knows that we, the Ashantis, will always vote for them. That's why they take us for granted. But I'm very sure NDC will definitely win not less than 5 constituencies, you say. And this one says, I'm predicting 25% for the NDC in the Ashanti region. The Galamsey issue has affected us more. This one says, NDC will win. I'm not sure this will happen. NDC will win Bantama this year. Ben, I'm sure you're just trying to annoy everybody. This one says, we in the Ashanti region vote for the MPP and will keep doing so because Jerry John Rawlings introduced... I'm not sure I should read this, but you say he also collapsed the businesses of some of your fathers and grandfathers. The other thing you're saying, I'm not sure is right to say. And then this one says the Akufo-Addo government is doing well across the country without sidelining anybody. So you believe that's why you're still happy with the MPP. So some interesting thoughts from Kwame on the NDC, and then there are likely inroads they will make in that region. But is that what it will really be?
Well, like I said, no two elections are the same. I think what the NDC should be looking to doing is to try and see if they can make beyond 25-26%. Historically, anytime they've made more than 26%, they have won. In 1996, they made beyond that figure, and they won. In 2008, they made beyond that figure as well, they won. So in 1996, I mean, they made 32%, MPP made 65.8%, NDC won. In 2000, MPP made 74%, leaving NDC with 22.5%, so NDC lost. Another election NDC won was 2008, they made 26.01%. In 2012, NDC won again, they made 28.35%. So what happens is, if anytime they've made beyond 25%, in this case 26%, they have won. And given the fact that the numbers are huge in that area, and the NDC typically wins a number of regions, I mean, just winning it slightly, if they're able to get about 25% of the votes in Ashanti, where we have a lot of votes, they're able to do well. What happens is the MPP, knowing that that is their stronghold, and the fact that it is highly populated, will go all out and ensure that they get out the votes. So that, for example, a place like Old Tafu, I mean, huge numbers, NDC will get something little, and the difference is so huge. The difference is even bigger than, you know, a whole constituency in terms of its total number of valid voters or number of voters. So it's an interesting thing to see. And again, in 2016, I'm sure the situation was like that because the MPP was in opposition, campaigning, and Addo's third time, wanting to come, promises, etc. And there were a few things also happening in the NDC side. People were not very happy. Doomsday and other things were there. Now people have tasted the MPP. There are people who are happy. There are people who are obviously not happy. And now John Mahama is on the sidelines telling you that, let me come and continue what I have to do. These were the things the guys promised you. Have they done it? I did this when I was there. So the dynamics of 2020 quite different from the dynamics of 2016. But to say the NDC will win the Ashanti region, I mean, it's an impossibility. Yeah. They can only do well and move beyond 25%, which would be good for them. And I'm sure by 25% they may end up in the 1 million plus votes they've always wanted.
Okay, could you?
Yeah, and talking about the figures, Salom mentioned 2012, where the NDC got about 28%, NPP got 70%, the other parties shared the rest. And the 2012 elections introduced a new set of people who have now basically become the faces of the party. Someone like Kwame Zhu. Kwame Zhu, Joseph Yamin back then was an executive. Joseph Yamin had Kwame Zhu, he had Francis Dodovi, he had Clement Chiroli, he had Ernest Boja Jemfi, who in 2016 contested for the parliamentary seat in Swami, right? Now, these people had airtime on the key radio stations. And in the evening, they would have a show. I've forgotten the title of the show.
He was even a media practitioner.
Yes. All these people have had a stint in the media. Clement Chiroli Kigari was a spokesperson for the minister then, and the KMA boss back then. And so all these people were used to tell the story of the NDC in the region. So you'd find them on almost all the key radio stations. In the evening, they bought their own airtime, they ran their own show, and they broke things down. So these days, you see a lot of these shows also within the media space across the country where political parties get. So they did a lot of work to push their votes up. And after that, they become faces in the party as to how they are going to maintain the momentum they built from 2012. Though in 2016 they lost a lot of votes, how they are going to get back. We wait to see the verdict of the people come 7 December.
Okay, so we will see how that pans out in the Ashanti region, for example. Tomorrow we'll continue our conversations around strongholds for particular political parties. But today I've been doing this with Stella Madonu, head of features and articles here at City FM and City TV, as well as Kojo Akoto Boateng, head of new media here at City FM and City TV. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Voter's Diary is sponsored by Samsung. Samsung, inspire the world,